Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP. Welcome to Crochet Poetry Corner, in which I crochet and read poetry. And this one is going to be a little bit special because it's going to be a Swedish poem. I live in Sweden, but I didn't grow up here in Sweden, so I haven't been exposed to many Swedish poems. But this one really, affected me and made me think a little bit. So let's get to it. It's a poem that is about spring, but also can be relevant for Valentine's Day. So we get to it. And this poem is called Visst gör det ont by Karin Boye. Ja, visst gör det ont. Ja, visst gör det ont när knoppar brister. Varför skulle annars våren tveka? Varför skulle all vår heta längtan bindas i det frusna bitterbleka? Höljet var ju knoppen hela vintern. Vad är det för nytt som tär och spränger? Ja, visst gör det ont när knoppar brister. Ont för det som växer och det som stänger. Ja, nog är det svårt när droppar faller. Skälvande av ängslan, tungt de hänger. Klamrar sig vid kristen, sväller, glider. Tyngden drar dem neråt, hur de klänger. Svårt att vara oviss, rädd och delad. Svårt att känna djupet, dra och kalla. Ändå sitta kvar och bara darra. Svårt att vilja stanna och vilja falla. Då när det är värst och inget hjälper, brister som i jubel trädets knoppar. Då när ingen rädsla längre håller, faller i ett glitter kvistens droppar. Glömmer att de skrämdes av det nya, glömmer att de ängslades för färdan. Känner en sekund sin största trygghet, vilar i den tillit som skapar världen. And this was by Karin Boye. And this was published in 1935. Karin Boye lived from 1900 to 1941. And let's go to the English version. Yes, of course it hurts. Yes, of course it hurts when buds are breaking. Why else would the springtime falter? Why would all our ardent longing bind itself in frozen bitter pallor? After all, the bud was covered all the winter. What new thing is it that bursts and wears? Yes, of course it hurts when buds are breaking. Hurts for that which grows and that which bars. Yes, it is hard when drops are falling, trembling with fear and heavy hanging, cleaving to the twig and swelling, sliding. Weight draws them down, though they go on clinging. Hard to be uncertain, afraid and divided. Hard to feel the depths attract and call, yet sit fast and merely tremble. Hard to want to stay and want to fall. Then, when things are worst and nothing helps, the tree's buds break as in rejoicing. Then, when no fear holds back any longer, down in glitter go the twigs' drops plunging, forgetting that they are frightened by the new, forgetting their fear before the flight unfurled. Feel for a second their greatest safety, rest in that trust that creates the world. So this poem talks about buds that hurt when they break and bloom, about raindrops that they cling to their branches, afraid to fall. And so it can be seen as, nature being afraid of, transformation, the transformation that comes with spring. The buds are like unwilling to open themselves up because they've been hidden in their shells, like the flowers have been hidden inside all winter And now, you know, having to go out is uncomfortable. And you could see this also as a metaphor for change in general, like people. People can be afraid of change and wants to stay in their comfort zone. I was told by a therapist a long time ago, actually my first therapist, I think. Oh, no, it was actually a doctor. Anyway, she said that I was like a butterfly that was afraid to not be a caterpillar anymore. That I was afraid to go into a cocoon and transform because I was so attached to my life as a caterpillar in the mud, you know? And that's kind of the sentiment that I see here, where like the water droplets want to stay to the twigs and they don't want to melt, they want to stay there. When really this is what they have to do, you know? And it's the circle of life. It's nature's way, and the buds have to open. And I think that it's very like true. You know, and it's like they don't know, they're hesitating about if the drops want to stay or if they want to fall, which you know, that's not how water does, you know, what water just flows. But when you see water dropping, sometimes you'll see like a droplet swell and stay and like start to tremble. And that's what she's explaining, like the drop is like in space and then like is like filling and filling and filling until it can't anymore, and then it has to fall. And yeah, so there's that. So it's really a springtime poem, but this poem was written as a love letter. And you could say, especially when you get also the word for knopp in Swedish, it means bud, but kropp and knopp are kind of words for the body. So you could imagine that bodies are having a hard time opening up to each other, you know? And then there's the final line, which really shows that the drops, they forget their fear before the flight unfurled. Feel for a second their greatest safety, rest in that trust that creates the world. And what is it that creates the world, you know? It has a sexual connotation. And yeah, Karin Boye was bisexual actually, but I think that from this poem she might be talking about a relation between a man and a woman, but you know, it's not really specified. I think that, so she talks about kind of this tension leading up to a climax. At least that's kind of how the rhythm of the poem is constructed. And then that huge amount of trust that is needed for this, and then the way that this leads to the biggest kind of the greatest safety, she says, that creates the world, because, well, it's sex, it's reproduction. So it's quite interesting that she would write this poem as a love letter. And also it was interesting that such a person lived in that time. In 1935 she wrote this poem, and she was actively in a relationship with another woman. But I find that even if it wasn't with all that metaphor, that it's a very beautiful poem about, you know, how the fear of change can be overcome, how we realize once we've done something that it wasn't that scary, and that we can actually do scary things, and actually it feels good afterwards, after having done the scary thing. So I think that it's a very beautiful poem, one of the better poems I've read so far in the Swedish language. I'll tell you if I find something different. I have been reading a little bit of these women, these Swedish women poets. It's Karin Boye and then there's Edith Södergran. They, you know, they are quite feminist for their time, I think. There was also, if you guys know the Moomins, Tove Jansson, who wrote the Moomins, she was actually bisexual as well. And she actually, one of the characters in the Moomins, Tutiki, is a representation of, it is supposed to represent her a female companion, that they actually, Tove Jansson actually lived on an island with her female lover, which I don't know at what time it was, but it was like, you know, pictures were taken in black and white. This was like before LGBTQ rights were really a thing. So Karin Boye is a gay icon, you could say. She created these poems. So that's all that I'll say about this. Tell me what you guys think. I'm going to try to find a little bit more poems for spring,